We have former Fort Worth Police Chief Jeff Halstead, who is joining us here on KRLD. There's been quite a commotion out of Arlington, an active shooter situation at a high school there, and the suspect has now been in custody this afternoon. But, there's just been so much swirling around this story today. Last night seemed to be a real positive night. We had National Night Out. And, just curious, Jeff, when we see something like this that happens, something so dramatic in our community, just the importance of building communication with the community to help solve these problems or to prevent them.
Without a doubt, every year National Night Out is literally like our Super Bowl where we can reconnect and then strengthen those relationships within the communities. And then growing that effort year round is a struggle, without a doubt. What you saw today is what all of us know in law enforcement is, crime never, ever takes a break. And people with criminal mentalities or criminal motives, they really don't care about those strengths and those partnerships and those communications. It is absolutely imperative. And Arlington does an outstanding job as a national leader in communication, building and strengthening those partnerships, and has one of the best social media outreach programs. But yet this can still happen, and that can shock a lot of parents.
You define this as the Super Bowl for the police department. I've never heard it put that way. Why is National Night Out so important for the police department?
It's because we are going into all areas of our cities and communities, and not just where we are being welcomed and we can have a soda or a snack, but we also get to know all of these community leaders that are ready to volunteer their time and their efforts, and they want to partner with us year round to make their block, their community, and their cities safer. So it's the night when we actually get to go out and see all of these people that really want a partnership with us. So we look forward to it year round.
You mentioned about their strength in social media, and social media has came up today in conversation about this actor shooter situation that we had there at the high school, because everyone has a cell phone and these high schoolers are not afraid to use it. They've recorded video while they were in the classroom, supposedly helped police even with tracking down the type of vehicle the suspected shooter left the campus in, all, through social media. However, there were also a lot of threats that were made this afternoon, a lot of inaccurate information that has been spreading. And that has been something that Arlington Police has really, cautioned parents to make sure that they take control of their kids' social media and review it so that they are not implemented in a crime.
Without a doubt, I can't tell you how frustrating it is, not just being in law enforcement, but now being in technology and a communications business. The amount of misinformation and inaccurate intelligence that's being shared by thousands and thousands of citizens when these types of things happen is very distracting for law enforcement. And then when you look at law enforcement, they're relying on radio connectivity, and they don't have the strength like the students do with these massive networks that they have created. One TikTok video can reach over 1 million people within an hour, and yet police are trying to get the right intelligence out on a police radio channel. So there are massive struggles with communication, not just misinformation, but the streamlined instant delivery of intelligence for those actively investigating is also critical in these types of incidents.
And that's the difference, is social media has made it so gigantically available, because police departments are used to getting, false alarms and fake leads, but they typically can individually just take care of those and throw those away very quickly. This just amps it all up, doesn't it?
Without a doubt, it does. And they do have, all of your major city police departments have social media investigators that scour a lot of these platforms and accounts, and they have access because people want them in and they want to have likes or friends in their accounts. But many of them now talk in various codes, which constantly change and evolve. So what you think is innocuous could be something very serious, but you have to have those trained personnel to evaluate and monitor these things 24/7, because literally within 3 minutes, something catastrophic could be going on and you have no idea.
What are some of the consequences that these kids don't realize could happen with what they say over social media in an active investigation?
I think the shocking part for a lot of parents is when they are charged with terroristic threats. So when you make a threat, it doesn't matter what platform you use, but your specific data, language, and then the delivery of that threat specifically targets, certain locations and institutions and facilities. Those can be viewed as terroristic threats. And now you have a child, literally a child, that is being charged with one of the most serious crimes in your community. And they think they were just, speaking their right or being outspoken, when in fact, they're committing sometimes not just a state crime, but a federal crime.
It almost seems like police departments need to hire high school kids to help them translate social media, especially as the language changes.
Funny you should say that, but many of our major city agencies are looking to connect not just within the high schools, but first and second year college students so that they can intern with the police departments, help us, because the end result is we want to stop a threat before it becomes an active event. And if, those creative minds, because they are extremely bright and very gifted at the way that they can navigate social media, if they can help their police agency stop that, they can actually derail someone from having a horrible criminal charge against them.
How important is it that parents are involved in their kids' social media to know if they have these fake accounts or side accounts or whatnot? Because you think about, what type of control is it enough to just delete these types of threats and just hope that it's gone away? Because nothing really goes away on the internet, right?
Yeah, nothing ever goes away. The minute you hit send, it's going to stay there forever. I think the most important role for any parent is to have the conversation that these events are real. They're very, very likely, but they also have to educate their child that do not act or reply on anything that you view as a threat. That will put you in the investigative circle of that kind of communication. Ignore it and move on. Like I tell a lot of not just my friends that have teenagers and children, I believe nothing I see on social media until I want to take the time to investigate and evaluate it, because people spout off quite a bit on social media, and a lot of it is just simply not true.
I know you weren't in Arlington for this. What did the police officers go through today when they hear about a shooting at a school?
Well, hopefully, and they didn't have their own children in those schools, but for those officers that do, you have a multitude of instances that are going on immediately within your brain. First and foremost, you got to figure out, are the shots still going on? And is the active shooter incident going away and or coming at you? So you evaluate your tactical entry. They've all been very well trained in this, but then you have to listen for echoing and screams, and keeping in mind, every person running with a hidden hand could be a suspect. So the stress inoculation for all of those first responders is absolutely massive. And then the ones that have to actually treat the victims, this will be lingering with them for many, many days and weeks. And hopefully they have internal friends, supervisors, and counselors they can talk to, because it is very, very troubling seeing children and those within those institutions being injured.
Are schools becoming more equipped to handle these types of situations with drills and plans in place? We saw today, for example, what was broadcast from the chopper. You could see just droves of school buses preparing to pick up, the kids, and then the plan to reunite those kids with their parents. Are these plans getting better?
Planning with the administration has greatly increased within the last decade. There was a pretty big stall in 2020 because of the defund police movement. There are many major school districts that have literally banned uniformed and gun carrying police officers from their campuses. I'm wondering if that's going to be reevaluated now, because that is the first line of not just defense, but offense when you have an active shooter and or shots fired within a campus. With that said, administration, they have done a very good job of planning, especially on their holidays and off time in the summer, of working through these drills, and then taking this incident, getting an after action report and then sharing that with multiple school districts in North Texas, that becomes a new learning ground on how they want to better prepare for these. So they do an excellent job.
It's a shame they have to have that kind of an education, isn't it?
It is, but you remember a couple of years ago when it seemed like churches, not just in Texas, but nationally, they were the targets of a lot of gun violence and active shooter situations. And you would think that is the most sacred of locations. But yes, school threats, and sadly, these social media threats that are just all the time. Parents should prepare their children for this and then work out an individual plan of action and safety and communication with them, because it's frustrating for the parents because they can't hear from their child many times. And that's usually due to the volume of data that is being pushed out of those cell towers at the same time.
I wanted to have some clarification on maybe some legality here. September 1st, we were here in the state allowed to now open carry. You don't necessarily have to have a license to have a gun. Now, in this case, there was a gun on a school campus. Just some clarification for our listeners that there are still places you can't carry a gun.
That's very true. And I think a lot of the public, especially your proud gun carrying, legal carrying citizens, think that they're immune from the private property restrictions and or the state restrictions that apply, liquor establishments and others. But any business can post that, and you cannot carry within there. And it actually is a crime for you to enter. With that said, many of your criminals could care less about anything that you post or what law and or federal law or ATF violation would occur. They are still going to carry a gun whenever and wherever they want to. That becomes a significant safety threat, not just for the public, but for law enforcement. But yes, if it is posted that this is a gun-free zone or weapons are not prohibited, you do not have a right to carry a weapon.